At a family meeting, my parents said, "We're leaving 5 million to our beloved daughter Emily," then looked at me. "And you, Sarah, you're on your own." But then my grandfather spoke up. "Quiet, now it's my turn." What he did next left everyone speechless. "Look, I'm gonna be straight with you about something that's been eating at me for weeks now. You ever notice how some families work like those old Coca-Cola commercials? All smiles and perfect moments and everyone gathering around the dinner table like they actually want to be there? Yeah, well, the Mitchells weren't that kind of family. I'm Sarah, 32, recently divorced, and according to my parents, their challenging daughter. Which is rich coming from people who think challenging means I asked questions like, why does Emily get a car for getting B's when I need straight A's just to get a good job, honey? My sister Emily? She's one of those people who makes you feel tired just watching her be perfect. You know, the type, blonde hair that somehow looks good even after she's been at the gym, voice that never gets shrill even when she's complaining. And this weird ability to make everything sound like she's doing charity work. Teaching at some fancy private school in Cherry Hills, where the kids' lunch money costs more than most people's car payments. We grew up in this split-level house in Littleton that Mom was always trying to make look more expensive than it was. Dad worked as an engineer for some aerospace company, steady money, boring conversations about turbine efficiency at dinner. Mom did bookkeeping part-time and spent the rest of her energy managing Emily's social calendar like she was running a small country. Me? I was like that weird cousin who shows up to family photos and everyone's like, "Oh right, she exists too." Thing is, I actually did pretty well for myself. Started a marketing business 3 years ago that's pulling in decent money now. Got my own house, nothing fancy, but it's mine. No husband taking half my stuff anymore. No in-laws asking when I'm gonna settle down and be normal. But every family dinner was like watching Emily perform in some one-woman show called Look How Amazing I Am, while I sat there eating Mom's overcooked pot roast and pretending I didn't notice how they lit up when she talked and went dim when it was my turn. Except for Grandpa Bill, he's Dad's father, moved in with them after Grandma Rose died, 87 years old, and still asks better questions than most people half his age. While everyone else was oohing and ahing over Emily's latest classroom project, he'd corner me in the kitchen and want to know about my clients, my business plans, what I thought about some article he'd read. Every Thursday, I'd swing by to check on him. Not because anyone asked, they probably didn't even notice, but because he was the only person in that house who looked at me like I wasn't Emily's disappointing sister. So, when Mom called last Tuesday with that voice, you know, the one that sounds like she's trying to sell you something you definitely don't want, I knew something was up. "Sarah, sweetie, we need to have everyone over Saturday. Something important we need to discuss as a family." Family meetings. Christ. The last one was when Dad thought he was having a heart attack, but it turned out he'd just eaten too much of Mom's experimental chili. Emily had shown up with color-coded spreadsheets about cardiac care options. I'd brought antacids. Saturday rolled around with that weird October weather Denver gets, sunny but cold enough to make you question your jacket choices. I pulled up behind Emily's Honda, which looked like she'd just driven it off the lot. Meanwhile, my Subaru had that, "I'm practical and I don't care what you think" vibe going on. Walking into that house always felt like stepping into some alternate reality where I was still 16 and getting lectured about my attitude. The living room was set up all formal, which was bizarre. Usually we just sprawled wherever, but today it looked like they were hosting a board meeting or something. Emily was already there, of course, perched on the edge of the couch in one of those cardigans that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She had that look, like she was trying really hard to seem surprised about something she definitely already knew about. "Sarah, how's your little business doing?" Little business, every damn time. The same little business that was actually doing better than her teaching salary. But why let facts get in the way of a good condescension? Dad was doing that thing where he cleans his glasses obsessively, which meant he was about to say something he didn't want to say. Mom kept fussing with her hair like she was about to get her picture taken. And Grandpa Bill, He was just sitting there in his chair by the window, watching everything with this expression I couldn't quite read. "Well," Dad started, putting his glasses back on for the third time, "your mother and I have been talking." The temperature in the room seemed to drop about 10 degrees. I could feel something coming, something big and probably not good for me. Emily was practically vibrating with contained excitement. Whatever this was about, she was in on it. "We've been thinking about the future," Dad continued, and I swear he looked everywhere except at me, "about what happens to everything we've built when we're gone." Oh no. This was about money, about inheritance. My stomach started doing gymnastics. Mom jumped in with that chirpy voice she uses when she's about to ruin someone's day but wants to sound cheerful about it. "We've worked so hard our whole lives, and we want to make sure everything goes to someone who'll really treasure it and use it responsibly." Emily was glowing like she'd swallowed a light bulb. She absolutely knew what was coming next. "After a lot of consideration," Dad said, still avoiding my eyes, "we've decided to leave our entire estate, the house, all our investments, everything, to Emily. It's worth about $5 million. The words hit me like a slap across the face. $5 million. $5 million that represented Dad's 30 years of steady paychecks, Mom's careful budgeting, their one big vacation every 3 years. All those times they'd clipped coupons and bought generic cereal. Emily's reaction was pure theater. "Oh my goodness, I'm so honored. This is such a responsibility, such a gift. I promise I'll use it to help others, maybe start a scholarship fund." Scholarship fund my ass. She'd probably blow it on a bigger apartment and more of those expensive cardigans. Then Dad turned to me, and the look on his face. Jesus. Like he was telling me I had 6 months to live. "And you, Sarah? Well, you're on your own. You've always been so independent, so good at taking care of yourself. We know you don't need our help." Don't need their help? Don't need their help? I'd been busting my ass for years trying to prove I was worthy of basic human acknowledgement from these people, and their conclusion was that I didn't need them? The room felt like it was spinning. I thought about all the times I'd fixed their computer when they couldn't figure out why it was running slow, all the times I brought them dinner when Dad's back went out. The birthday, they forgot because they were too busy planning Emily's graduation party. The Christmas where my present was clearly something they'd grabbed last minute from the pharmacy while Emily got jewelry. "I see," I said, and my voice sounded weird and far away. "So Emily gets $5 million and a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I get the privilege of continuing to not matter." "Sarah, that's not," Emily started. "No, actually, it is exactly that." That's when Grandpa Bill's voice cut through all the bullshit like a chainsaw through cardboard. "Quiet. Now it's my turn." The way he said it, man. Suddenly, he wasn't the old guy who needed help reaching the high shelves. He was the guy who'd built a construction company with his bare hands, who'd survived the Depression, who'd buried a wife and 3 of his friends and kept getting up every morning anyway. Robert, Margaret. He used their full names, which in Grandpa Bill language meant someone was about to get their ass handed to them. "I just sat here and watched you two commit the stupidest act of your entire lives, and I'll be goddamned if I'm letting you finish it." Dad looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "Dad, we thought about this really carefully." Did you? Did you think about who's been driving me to my doctor appointments every week because your back's too delicate, Robert? Did you think about who hired a cleaning service for this house when Margaret was having her meltdowns after Rose died? My face went hot. I'd made them promise not to tell anyone about paying for the cleaning lady. Did you think about who comes here every Thursday, not because anyone asked her to, but because she actually gives a damn about spending time with me? Who brings me books and reads me articles when my eyes are acting up? Emily's perfect composure was starting to crack like cheap paint. "Grandpa, that's sweet, but..." "I'm not done talking, Emily." His voice could have frozen lava. "Sarah, stand up." I stood on shaky legs, having no idea what was happening but knowing it was something big. "Tell them about that restaurant chain contract you landed." "Grandpa, it's not important." "Tell them how much they're paying you." "6 figures," I mumbled, "for 3 years." You could have heard a pin drop in Antarctica. Tell them about the volunteer work you do that you don't post pictures of on Facebook. I work at the downtown homeless shelter, 2 years now. Tell them what you've been saving up for. My throat felt tight. A stair lift, so you can get to your room easier. When I looked up, Mom looked like someone had told her Santa Claus was dead. Grandpa Bill reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope that looked like it contained something important. His hands weren't shaking anymore. They were steady as a surgeon's. I've got some news of my own, he said. Updated my will last month. Emily went from pink to the color of old newspaper. You all know I sold my construction company 20 years ago. What you don't know is I kept a 40% stake in it. With all this real estate development happening, he paused, looking around the room like he was savoring the moment. It's worth about $12 million now. I felt like someone had replaced my knees with jelly. $12 million? That was more than double what Mom and Dad had been so carefully distributing. Plus, there's the cabin in Aspen nobody knows about, the investment accounts my financial guy's been growing, and a few other things. He was looking straight at me now. Sarah, it's all yours. Emily made a noise like air escaping from a tire. But, Grandpa, I'm the responsible one. I've always been. Been what? His voice could have cut steel. Been calling me twice a year? Been sending me those generic cards from the grocery store? Been asking how I'm doing, and then immediately talking about yourself for 20 minutes. Dad tried to jump in. Dad, maybe we should talk about this without everyone here. Without everyone here. Like how you two decided to disown your daughter without bothering to ask me what I thought about it. Grandpa Bill stood up slowly, and suddenly he looked about 10 feet tall. Sarah's worked harder than anyone in this room. She built something real, just like I did when I was her age. She takes care of people without making a big production out of it. She's got guts and heart and brains, which apparently skipped right over you two and landed on her instead. He walked over and took my hands in his. They felt like leather and kindness. Honey, I've watched you your whole life, trying to earn something that should have been yours from day one. But you know what? You don't need their permission to be worth something. You never did. Mom was crying, not her pretty movie tears, but real, ugly sobs. We didn't realize, she kept saying. We didn't know. You didn't want to know, Grandpa Bill said. Big difference. Emily was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Sarah, I never meant. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't the one apologizing. I wasn't scrambling to make everyone else feel better. I just stood there holding my grandfather's hands and watched 32 years of family dynamics explode like a house of cards in a tornado. Nobody said anything for what felt like hours. Finally, Dad cleared his throat like he was trying to start a car that wouldn't turn over. Sarah, we really screwed this up. All of it. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something I'd never seen before. He looked small, deflated, like someone had told him his whole life was built on a lie. Yeah, I said quietly. You really did. Emily was twisting her hands like she was trying to wring water out of them. Sarah, I swear I never asked them to pick me over you. I never wanted this to happen. No, I agreed. You just never questioned why it was happening. The truth of that hung in the air like smoke. Mom reached toward me, but I stepped back. Not mean, just creating space for myself for once. I need time to think about all this, I said. This isn't getting fixed in one afternoon. Grandpa Bill squeezed my shoulder. Take all the time you need, sweetheart. Real family, the kind that matters, is about who shows up when it counts. As I grabbed my keys to leave, Emily called out, Sarah, wait, I want to fix this somehow. Tell me how to fix this. I stopped and looked back at her. My sister, who'd been performing the role of perfect daughter for so long, she'd forgotten there was a real person underneath. Stop pretending, Emily. Just be real for 5 minutes. That's all I ever wanted from any of you. Driving home through the streets I'd grown up on, I felt something weird. Not happy exactly, but free? Like I'd finally stopped trying to squeeze myself into a box that was never the right size anyway. My phone buzzed at a stoplight. Text from Grandpa Bill. Thursday dinner at that Italian place downtown. We need to talk about your future, and I'm buying. I laughed out loud, actually laughed, for the first time in weeks. Yeah, we definitely needed to talk about my future, the one I was finally going to get to write myself. Funny how getting written off forces you to write your own damn story, and mine was just getting started.